It's actually in the book somewhere.
It is in the
thing.
book?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think it's in the book somewhere. Pretty sure it is.
There you go. So that's good. Okay, let me see here. Okay, we are technically live. We are behind the scenes, so it's just the live stream and things like that. Nobody can see us just yet. Hold on. Let me see transition there.
Are you a deer hunter, by the way?
I haven't hunted deer. No.
Okay.
I do have a bow, and I plan to.
Cool.
But I don't have a license, and in North Carolina you have to have one. And
here too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I brought a friend with me that I asked for that for a reason. So
Gotcha.
My 6 point that I got, but I'll.
Really?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Let's see. Hold on. That. And so while we're going through, I'm just so you know, I'm kind of piecemealing together the video feeds. So during the commercial breaks, just so you know, one of the things that I do is I run through, and if you have to step out and do your business or anything, that's not a problem. Normally, what I'm doing is conversing with the audience at that time. So
right, okay.
Either way, it's all good. Let's see here. Eric is with us. Nice to see ya. Cool. Oh, good. Everything's up and running. We're doing just fine. All right,
good.
Fine. Sweet.
Already up on Facebook?
Mm-hmm. We are indeed up on Facebook on both the Defenders page and Mojo.
Good deal.
Mm-hmm. Have you met any of the Mojo guys yet?
Not personally, no. I called in yesterday. Maybe I'll wait and talk about that in a minute. But
nice.
Yeah, let's do that.
Glad that you got the chance.
Keep it spontaneous.
not that we're planning anything at all, you know.
No.
Okay, let me see. Good.
I didn't hit the slurp button. I'll do that next time.
That's okay. You don't need to. It's just fine. See here. All right. So 15 seconds till we get silence here. All right. Erica said good evening. Very nice.
Good evening.
Hello. Okay. Bum, bum, bum. It's good to know, Matt. It's good to know. All right. I'm going to do some radio silence, and we'll hit it back right when the show starts. Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. We are live. You can find us pretty much anywhere they have a social media outlet, Facebook, Twitters, YouTubes, the MeWe, all the MeWes. You can find the chat rooms there as well. Follow us at DOAE Show. So that's pretty much anywhere that you find the social medias at DOAE Show. You can also find us live playing right now on Mojo 50 Radio. And if you do that, you can also check out the video feed that they have going on their Facebook page, Mojo 50 Radio. That's where you find us there. Along with that, you can go to our website, doaeshow.com. That's doaeshow.com. Become a Defender with us. When you do that, you can go for free. That's becoming a shield bearer. That just sends us gives us your email so we can contact you in case of major emergencies. No, not in case of emergencies. If we have new updates and things like that, you'll be kept in the line. If you do become a full Defender with us, that's $5 a month, $50 a year. And when you do sign up for annually, you get a nice, nifty, free t-shirt. Either the one that I have right here, or hashtag I see what you did there, which is the official hashtag on Twitter for this show. Tonight, I have with me Mac Taylor. Mac Taylor is the author of The Assault on Freedom in America. Mac, how you doing today?
Good. How about you, Stephen?
Sober.
Nice. It's not what you said earlier, but okay.
Shh. Don't go there. No,
All
I'm
right.
just joking. All right. Anyway,
That was a joke.
yes, for anybody that's watching.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Mac, you have a wonderful book, The Assault on Freedom in America. It is forwarded by Jonathan Dunn, which is a great friend of mine. Love that man.
Great guy. Awesome guy.
Awesome guy. Great guy. And you say right here, with a prophetic warning from our first president, George Washington.
Right.
What's that all about?
Well, George Washington warned us that cunning, unprincipled, and ambitious men will seek to subvert the power of the Constitution by nefarious means.
No.
And yes, it's kind of funny thing about human nature. You know, our founders were blessed with a full experience of experiencing human nature with King George and his army, and so they understood quite well what power can do to a man and what absolute power can do to a man. Mm-hmm. And so they were warning us. It's as if George Washington was reaching in to our times today to us. This is how I envision it to myself. He loved the Patriots. He loved America. He loved this country that much. It's one of those guys, people in history you wish you could go back and meet, you know, or maybe come here and he'd meet us and straighten us out. But so, you know, he was warning posterity that these people will come. And so, and he said something to the effect that in a republic, which we are, I like to remind people that we're not a democracy, we're a republic, and people, yes, we are. You know, that's being pushed heavily by the other party. But anyway, you
mean when they say in our democracy?
Yes, and they're doing it more and more frequently. Have you noticed?
Oh yeah.
You know, it seems to me anyway. Maybe I'm just getting older, and that's what I'm hearing. But but anyway, so he just warned us because they were versed in human nature and what power can do to individuals and absolute power, and that's why they structured the government the way they did. Mm-hmm. And he was just warning us that nevertheless we'll get our cycle of these same kinds of people, and we're getting it right now. It's not just right now. It's been going on since the progressive era, say around 1910 or so. So this has been going on a very, very long time, and I'm not sure that I don't want to insult the American public, because I think the American public are really, really bright people, but our education system has failed us all, and we failed it by not participating and letting it kind of run itself, or let the bureaucrats run the education system, and so we need to take control of that back. But anyway. So he just warned us of the very times that we're living. So I find it very interesting, and that's in the book. There's that quote, and there's other warnings from him, and it comes from his farewell address, which people should read along with the other founding documents.
Oh, kind of like that same warning in that same address where he was talking about the two-party system and how it will, basically destroy us in the end.
Exactly. And it's interesting too. He said the two-party systems, he said party faction will lead to agitating the community. And it just reminded me of a community agitator that we used to have, but he's still around. But yes, well, so but the choice of words that Washington used was interesting. He said it agitates the community. This is the quote: agitates the community with ill-founded jealousies. That's a partial quote from a longer quote. And so very interesting, very apropos to our times. So
wow, and so you literally start this book with, other than the forward, obviously, because that's Jonathan's part, but you start this book with an explanation of terms.
I did.
Now, I kind of get why you did that, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Why did you start with an explanation of terms in a book that should be pretty straightforward?
But they're not, and I have lots of all kinds of friends in my life. Conservative friends, I have liberal friends, I have straight friends, and I have gay friends, and a lot of my more liberal friends, shall we say, non-church going, maybe non-believing. I don't really know. We don't always have these discussions. They think, well, I have a liberal lifestyle, therefore I must vote liberally. I have to vote for Hillary or I have to vote for that. And so they're voting for the very people that will put them in bondage. And I said, well, do you believe in A? And they said, well, no, of course not. I want the government to leave me alone. I said, well, what about B? Well, of course not. I want the government to leave me alone. Of course. I said, you're not a liberal. You're a conservative. You're a classic liberal. So I wanted to explain to people how you live your life. Your lifestyle is not how you should view your government. It's a conservative government doesn't mean it's a moralizing government. It's going to make everybody go to church tomorrow. That's not a conservative government. A lot of my friends think if it's conservative, we're going to moralize and we're going to preach at them. And it's not that. It's talking about a conservative, limited government, just conserving the principles of freedom is what it is. And so I felt like that discussion needed to come right up front. And people have really liked that, by the way. You might be the only one that didn't like it. No,
that's not I didn't. It's not that I didn't like it. It's that I wanted to make sure of why you did it, because I get it. I get it wholeheartedly. Nobody understands terminology anymore. We so mix up words, especially my generation and the generation after mine. We mixed up so many words. We've confounded the information in such a way that it's just it's astronomically different than what it was when it was originally conceived. Something that you point out that is just going through the chapters, feeling versus thinking. Yes. And this is part of your social justice warriors. This is parts of your your PC culture. Politically correct, which is technically not correct. It's socialist and it's communist and it kills people. How this affects how we think and how we work on a daily life. Go over that with me.
The feeling versus thinking came about. Watching the media for most of my life, a journalist invariably asks somebody, how do you feel about this or how do you feel about that? If you watch the Kavanaugh hearings, there were a lot of questions based on feelings to elicit an emotional response. Mm-hmm. And so there have been times when maybe there's an intellectual discussion going on, and the journalist, or maybe about abortion or something, and asking the journalist would always ask, "How do you feel?" Or maybe somebody just got murdered, and they'd ask the brother of the victim, "Well, how do you feel?" Well, I mean, how the heck do you think they feel? That how about what do you think? Why is it not what you think? And I have to say too, the person answering the question also has a responsibility to use the proper faculty. So reason and emotion are two perfectly valid human faculties, but they both have different uses. Mm-hmm. And so my daughter woke up one morning. She was in the 8th grade, and she said, "Daddy, I don't feel like going to school today." And so we went through this whole list. I said, "Well, are you sick?" And she said, "Well, no." I said, "A fever? No." "You feel bad in some other way?" "No." We went through this whole routine. And I said, "Well, what do you think we should do about it?" And she thought about it for a minute and said she actually thought about it. She said, "Well, I think I ought to go." So we discussed how you could just not feel like going. I said, I don't really feel like going to work. So I'm with you. I'm on the same page. But I think I better. And so emotions, attorneys can use emotion in a courtroom to lead a witness to a preferred conclusion. Journalists can also use emotion to lead people. Demagogue politicians can also use emotion to lead and persuade people. And so emotion is not the proper tool if we're discussing our government, for example. We need to be thinking and not emoting. And political correctness is based on emotion.
Yeah, but
much of the left is based on the emotion.
But what you're talking about is using foundational truth to think through your life and your processes. And there's so many people today that have never even thought of foundational truths other than how to contradict them. Mm-hmm. That wouldn't really come across to them, and they wouldn't really be able to understand where you're coming at with that. With that, hold on just a minute. We'll kind of get back to that question here right after this commercial break. Stick with us, guys. We'll be right back. Okay, and with that, we have 3 minutes.
You know I was joking, right? When I said you're the only one that didn't like that.
Oh, yes. No, I do.
Okay.
Definitely.
Any
Personal jabs at me are welcome.
No, I didn't. And you did not insinuate you didn't like that. And I'm glad you brought that up because I want, and people are still listening, right? We're still.
Oh, yeah, we're still, like, anybody
awesome.
who's watching right now is going to, anybody who's watching or anybody who listens to the podcast later will hear this.
Okay. So I'm glad you brought up that about the definitions, and I've gotten good feedback, but it just from talking to my friends. I mean, I've talked to people that are liberal, and they just think that they can't vote for a Republican, for example, or they can't vote for the conservative or the constitutional libertarian candidate, because and I try to explain to them that's exactly the person. The libertarian is really more the person you want to be voting for, not these totalitarians that'll use you like Vladimir. Lenin said that, as a useful idiot. So didn't tell him that in quite those harsh terms, but no, I have friends on the left and the right, and I love them all. And I'm just seeing this confusion, and I wanted to speak to it. And that's why I put it on there. So
that's good, and that's probably the best way to start. It's always starting from a book from a position where you're like, I don't know where you guys are at, but here's some standards that we're going by in this book. So you can understand me, you can understand what's going on. Matt, the book is at his website, which is right in our information link. It's mactaylor.org.
Yes.
It is on Amazon. If you just look up the title of the book, it's there as well, The Assault on Freedom in America. Actually, I don't have a link. I can put up a link real quick. Hold on. The Assault on Freedom in America. This is what Ben Shapiro does like half the time in his show. He just sits there, types, and wait, let me make sure I've got this right.
Oh, yeah. I see him reading, I love the guy. I think he's great.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
Smart as all get out, too.
For sure.
Yeah.
Copy there. Let's see. Okay. Boom. Let me get you there, buddy. All right, there you go, Matt. It's in the conversation box. You got the link. Of course, have to copy and paste it. It didn't show up as a link, so your fault, though.
Thanks for doing that, Steve.
Oh, yeah, not a problem at all. Definitely, like I said, your website's up there. All right, we got 5 seconds. Commercial break's about to end. And we're back. You're listening to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. Tonight we have Mac Taylor with us, and we're going over his book a little bit here, piece by piece, breaking it down, making sure people understand where he's coming from, why he's doing it, and what he's written, which, by the way, is an astounding book, large print for those people with glasses like myself, which is amazing.
Large print. It's the only way I could read it.
Oh, yeah.
It's the only way I could read my own book.
It's the only way I can read it, so it's okay. I'm very happy.
It made it look thicker, and I thought that was more impressive. Like a thicker, bigger book.
It's a total of what, almost 300 pages.
Yeah, doubled up to 6. No, it's only just 300 or so, and that's including. It's heavily footnoted, by the way. So.
It is. There's 15 pages in the back at least.
There are a good many. I can't remember 100 and some footnotes there, but
yeah. So you got it pretty good there. So the principles of freedom.
Yes.
Utilizing the basic understandings of truth, real truth, and morality, which there is an exact portion of it. We know there is exacts. We know there is truth because there are things like laws of nature. And since we have laws of nature, we know that there are some things that can't be changed. And so they're to us, we perceive them as exacts. So how do those moral laws or those laws of nature, how do they, other than actually being listed out in our Constitution and in the Bill of Rights, how do they affect us on a daily basis?
How do they affect us on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Well, I think that respecting the laws of nature, the moral law, we know that we should be polite with one another and respect each other's opinions and viewpoints. And I'm not sure exactly what you mean by how does it affect us on a daily basis. Could you give me a little more clarification?
That's one of those curves I just wanted to throw in there.
That's okay. No, I don't mind.
Well,
but
so we have the moral laws. We have the laws of nature and nature's God, right? And that understanding from Thomas Jefferson and how he wrote that out. And then you have the principles of freedom, which is where you go, a chapter that you go into. Right. How they affect us on a daily life, as in every day what we do, and how we communicate, how we interact with each other, how we go through life, and politically what we have going on in our systems today. How is it that we can utilize these things to make more of an impact? Is what I really
got you. I got you. Yeah. Let's say that there's a guy watching, or we're all three in a room, and there's a third person here, a gal, doesn't really matter, many people as you want, and that they don't speak English, and somebody reached over and cut the cords on my microphone, some guy with or if I reached over and just knocked over someone's water or something. Well, the guy that didn't speak our language, not from our culture, just here visiting in the room with us, would think that is rude. So how does he know that without being in the same culture that we're in? Mm-hmm. He knows it innately as a human being because it's in part of the natural law. It's just like the science principles, like the principle of 2 + 2 is 4. Well, that principle works here, Europe, on the moon. We assume on the moon. I haven't been there to test it, but I imagine it would work on the moon. And so these scientific principles exist in nature, just like principles of behavior or moral behavior exist, and all cultures know this. The left right now is trying to tell us that all behavior is culturally determined. And that's a very, very dangerous road to go down. I think the Nazis tried that and didn't work out very well in the camps. So no. They, in that small culture, they thought it was okay to do what they were doing, but we know that was wrong. So this idea that the left has what they want to do is they want to rid us of the natural law so that they can then make up the rules of behavior, and they call those rules of behavior political correctness and social justice, multiculturalism, diversity, all these little terms that we're hearing right now. And so they want to put themselves in control of what is right and wrong. And we have an ideological clash going on in our country right now between cultural Marxism and the founding principles, which are grounded in nature and nature's law, just like the scientific principles, but they're principles of ethical and moral behavior, and they all come from nature, just like the science. So this clash is what's happening in our country right now, and the left wants to subvert our founding on natural law and replace it with political correctness. But if you think about it, political correctness seeks to funnel everybody into the same mode of thinking, of being, and a way of talking, and dancing, everybody dancing to the same politically correct tune. So that's actually bondage. That's making people all behave the same. The people that preach tolerance are trying to get everybody to speak the same way. But the principles of freedom offer maximum diversity and maximum liberty, you see? And so there were atheists that fought with founders for this country. Everybody wasn't born again Christian.
No, not everybody.
And so, no, they weren't.
But even those atheists understood at that time that without a foundation in Judeo-Christian ethics and understanding, that without that sort of base morality and understanding of nature's law, all would be lost.
That's why nature and nature's God. The founders didn't define God. They didn't say, well, it's Jesus. They left that to each person and to define it. But it's nature and nature's God, and they just that's where they left it. But you're right. You did have to believe that what you could not believe in early America is that rights come from man. That's the whole point. Rights don't come from man; they come from nature. But what the left is trying to do now is get that back in their control. They want to say no, rights come from man, and that's what people are seeing in the country. This clash that's going on, this ideological clash. Antonio Gramsci was the founder of Italian communism, and he was part of the Frankfurt School, part of cultural Marxism. And if people out there listening to things that like cultural Marxism and postmodernism, and don't get confused on these new terms that come up every now and then. Think of Marxism as a cake. Well, what the Marxists do is, well, they put butterscotch icing on. Well, that didn't work. Let's get rid of that and try some chocolate icing. Well, that's not working too good. So they just keep recoding Marxism.
We're liberal. We're progressive.
That's it.
Multicultural. We're
right. Yeah, because a lot of people don't want to study these terms. So when you're hearing all these terms, don't get confused by it. It's just Marxism being repackaged in a way that's trying to get you to eat it, you know? And there's a thing called the Long March Through Western Civilization. And what that meant was they would infiltrate our cultures, our church. Antonio Gramsci said this in 1915. He said, we will destroy the West, and socialism will be precisely the religion that we will use to overwhelm Christianity. He called socialism a religion. He said, we'll use it to overwhelm Christianity. And he said, we're going to do this by infiltrating their schools, their universities, their churches, and CNN. Well, he said the media. So not specifically that particular channel, but just the media. And so, and in other words, they would infiltrate the culture, and they called this the Long March Through Western Civilization. Long March because it wasn't an uprising that we're going to have this one big battle, and it was going to take a long time to infiltrate these various institutions of our culture. So that's what we call the culture war, and that started in the 60s. I remember hearing that term as a child. And watching, and so that's what the culture war is. It's an infiltration of Marxist ideology into all of these institutions in our culture, and we're in a very, very dangerous state. And I'm afraid that not enough Americans are aware of this. Another reason. This is why I wrote the book. And my daughter's 23; she's a millennial, and I wrote it. I thought, well, if I were to die and I'm not here tomorrow, I would at least know that I've put this thing down. If people want to throw it in the trash, go ahead and throw it in the trash. But I think since I've written this book, it's become more timely every day this year since it's been on the market. And I'm going to predict this. I'll say it right here on the show that this book will continue to become more timely as time goes on. I think you will see things. I feel that confident about it.
I think you might be correct. Actually, you said something just a minute ago, and it really hit a key. It got my head cranking a little bit. You said that socialism is the it was a quote. Socialism is the religion that we will use to replace Christianity.
Yes.
We're going to hold on to that. And you know what? We have other stories, but I want to keep going with this line.
Awesome.
So we'll hit the break, and after that, that's when we'll tap on that line right there. All right? Hold on one second. We'll be right back. All right. So remember that, folks.
I will. I like that because I think I don't know where you're going. We'll just hold it there. Keep it spontaneous and you know.
Let's not go too far deep into that yet. We don't. Well, pretty much everybody that's going to listen to it is going to listen to it on podcast later again. But that's okay. Shh.
That's okay too.
Anyway,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do have other stories, guys. Obviously, you saw the infographic on the top, but I want to keep up with this because this is just starting to get really interesting. Erica, oh goody, this is awesome. That's nice. I like that's nice.
That's Erica's comment.
That's Erica. Oh goody, this is awesome.
That's awesome. Thanks, Erica.
Math on the moon. It's hard enough to do math on Earth. I got you.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Who said that? Who's that?
Paul over on the Mojo chat. Let me see
With you,
here.
Paul.
And he also said, damn, now I want cake. And a conservative cake. I'll be all over that. It's very good, Paul. Very good. Liking
awesome.
that. Yes, sir. Well, it looks like you'll be getting a couple hits on that book anyway.
Good deal.
No, but yeah, that's I like that. That's going to be a good point of reference there, to replace Christianity with socialism. It makes a lot of sense, actually, when you put it out that way, because nobody knows how to explain socialism.
Oh, I see a chapter you didn't finish reading.
I told you I only skimmed it.
It's okay. Well, let me just wait. Yes, we'll wait on that.
Okay, let me see here. All right.
I'm enjoying it. This is good.
I'm glad that you are. Let me see.
No, I meant the coffee.
Oh, good.
No, I was
yes. Nice. Very
the
nice.
bell. So what's you got to explain the bell to me.
Okay, so technically the bell is for double entendres or good throwaway jokes. One of which you just made. Very nice.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I got a bell. So
you got a bell.
So is the goal to get count how many bells you can get during an interview, and then you win or something? Or you
probably
done well,
could. We might need to start that. That might be a good idea. Count the bells and see how it happens.
See who gets the most bells, and then you could give out awards.
Like a shirt. I don't know.
A T-shirt. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Even a book.
There you go. Oh, let's see. I think we're going to be hitting. Yeah, we'll be hitting the time spot in here in just a second. So,
okay.
Radio silence. And we're back. You're listening to the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. We are live, sitting here on Mojo 50 Radio, as well as pretty much anywhere that you can find social media, including the MeWe's. Yes, I said MeWe. That's right. All right. Mac Taylor's with me. Mac, we were about to get into something really interesting, and then the commercial break happened and kind of killed the entire stream of things. So let's get back into that. You were using a quote. And with that quote, you said specifically, socialism is the religion that we will replace Christianity with. That is something that actually hits quite home. It makes almost perfect sense when you think about how everybody thinks about socialism and understands socialism, because nobody can really explain it very well. They're like, it's this thing. It's ethereal. Go a little deeper into that.
It's one of my favorite chapters in the book. It's called Socialism, Thanksgiving. No, I don't even know the name of the chapter. What is it? Hang on.
Capitalism and Thanksgiving. Socialism,
yes.
Capitalism
and Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Thanks, Stephen. And I do get into that. The quote, if anybody's just now joining, let me just go back. This was Antonio Gramsci. He was the founder of Italian communism. He hated the West. He was an atheist. Mm-hmm. He hated Christianity, and he just hated the Judeo-Christian founding of the West. And it's hard for me even now to get my mind wrapped around. I don't hate anybody so bad. I don't want to hate anybody, even America's enemies. I mean, we have to deal with them, excuse me, but you can't have hate and love in your heart, in my view. So you got to kind of pick one. So I'd rather pick love, and it doesn't mean you can't deal justly with people that you need to deal justly and firmly with. But anyway, he hated the West so bad that he was part of the cultural Marxist Frankfurt School, and they want to destroy the West and overturn it and turn it into a socialist state. That's Europe, and America's basically the titular head of the West. And so he said in 1915 that socialism is precisely the religion that we will use. This is a quote, that we will use to overwhelm Christianity. And he went on to say in that same quote that we will do this by infiltrating with Marxist principles their schools, their universities, their churches, and their media. And so they began this. This has been happening in America for over 100 years. If you go look at the graduated income tax, for example, which we got in 1913, a lot of Americans don't know there was no income tax between from the founding of this country until the progressive Democrats in 1913 put it in. So the founders didn't put it. Imagine we're not supposed to be even taxed on our wages. Think about that. So, and so many freedoms that we don't have now. We're in way bigger bondage than people realize. But anyway, so he said socialism is precisely the religion, and he called it a religion, which is your point. So. And I think it's really interesting today because when I was talking earlier about this ideological clash, well, think about this. Think about the Christian notion that says, don't covet your neighbor's belongings, wife, husband, whatever, versus they've got more. They're the 1%. They're the 10%. We should be able to take it from them and make everyone equal. So you've got two completely different value systems. And in order to get a person to not if someone sees it wrong to take from your neighbor just because he's got more doesn't mean you have a right to take it. If that person sees it wrong, you're never going to get that person to adopt or meld into the socialist mindset. So the first thing you've got to do is erode Christianity. And that's what's been happening in our country for over 100 years. It's been laughed at, ridiculed. This is why I wrote the last chapter in the book. Any atheists out there, hey, listen up, because I wrote this thing partly for you. It's called Faith is the Logical Choice. It's not a religious tome. It's a rational refutation of evolution. So I challenge you to read it and get back with me because I want to hear how you can knock that chapter down. But that needed to be done because the church has always been ridiculed and people of faith have been considered to be emotionally bent, not thinking like science. Science is for thinkers, and Christian or the faith or the church is for people that need an emotional crutch. And I think Ted Turner even said as much. So you've got these conflicting ideologies going on. And so Gramsci spoke about destroying Christianity first in order to get people to accept socialism. And you can see this is precisely what's going on. People actually think that's sharing, that socialism is sharing. Yeah. Well, it's not sharing. If I take a gun and hold it to your head, and that gun is the law, and I can take your money from your pocket and give it to Pete over here on the corner, that's not sharing. Sharing is when I do it from my heart, not when the government takes from me and gives it to the other guy. That's not sharing.
Right. It's not sharing like that. It's also not sharing when you have to. It's not charity to tell everybody that we're going to vote for more Medicaid and Medicare, and that's how we're going to take care of the widows and the orphans and things like that.
That's right.
That's not charity.
Absolutely.
Because it's forced.
Right. What I always told my daughter is this. I said, if the government takes it from one, and I'd let her finish the gives it to one, then I'd let her finish the sentence. Then he took it from the other. So the government taking from one person and giving to another is not charity; it's theft. And I cover the issues. What happens is, and this is in that chapter that I can't remember the title of, Socialism, Capitalism, and Thanksgiving. It's three words. I think did I get it right? Okay, good. That's so it's in that chapter, and I discuss how socialism runs contrary to human nature. And I go back and I talk about the Pilgrims' experience. Many people don't know that I wasn't taught this in school. I learned it later, that the Pilgrims tried socialism.
Oh yeah, some of the first colonies. Yeah,
it almost killed them. It brought about a period called the starving time. They ate rats. I mean, it got really, really bad. And this is in that chapter. So socialism runs contrary to human nature, and it binds men together in a way that's unnatural. When you pool men's money together forcibly by the force of law, you're not just pooling their money together. You're pooling. Some people work harder than others. Some people are more industrious than others. So you're pooling men together in a very unnatural way that is born and bred to cause dissent among that group. And the more dissent there is, guess what? The more government you need. So the purveyors of this philosophy, of this very dark philosophy, know exactly what they're doing. But unfortunately, there are a lot of followers out there, people that mean well. They think, people literally think that socialism is sharing, and they mean well, and they're not our enemy. Those people can be reached, and I wrote this book for them too. Two words are not in this book: Democrat and Republican. I want to get that.
That is true. That is true. It's especially in your explanation terms. You have liberal, you've got conservative. I didn't see anywhere where it was Democrat and Republican.
Right. It's not a blue team, red team type book because freedom belongs to everyone. It's not that freedom belongs to a certain group of Americans and not to others. It belongs to everyone. And no matter what your beliefs are, you have a right as an American to believe whatever you want and live your lifestyle as you want. So you just don't have a right to take the reins of government and force it on everyone else. And that's what we need to convince the left of. But
well, yeah, but at the same point in time, that's something so ingrained in them that when they see that and when they hear that, when a group of people that have believed something like socialism for so long, they defend it without thinking. That's right. It's the same thing like when they talk about Christianity, they say that, oh, you guys are just, you're just believing without truth. You're believing just
That's
by
right.
faith. And it's,
absolutely.
Okay, yes, there are some things by faith that we have to believe.
Well, let me ask you this.
There are proof. There's proof in society. There's proof in the laws of nature. What they're really trying to prove is something that's been disproven hundreds of times.
Well, if I got that question from somebody, I would ask them, like, say a scientist asked me, maybe Richard Dawkins, and I would say, well, Richard, where are the principles of science? Have you found God's little box where he keeps all these principles? Can you show me that box? Mm-hmm. And he can't show me science. I said, so why do you believe in science when it's something that you can't see? You can't see the principles of physics, of biology, you can see the results of those principles. So I make the same argument with faith, and it's in that last chapter again, and people that have read it have really, really liked it, the way I've presented this argument. So he believes in science or and they have faith in science that or they wouldn't get on the airplane. They have faith that the gravitational pull of the Earth is going to work the same today as it does tomorrow, and that the principles of aircraft flight are going to work tomorrow the same as they do today, or you wouldn't get on the plane. So you can't see you can't see science either. So you can't use science to prove science. So it's really the same argument. But I think the faithful, I just haven't seen an argument. I always wanted to make the argument because I felt like there was a void there. I felt like that people that are believers should have this idea that it's rational. It's not irrational. And I know we weren't going there, but much on the faith part. But it says, but this is what's happening. We're having this clash between that and socialism, this ideological clash, and so this very discussion that we're having right now, in my opinion, needs to take place on a national level because this is the core issue. People are thinking, well, if we can just get more Republicans in, and the Democrats are thinking, well, we just going to get more of these guys. But we have a foundational crisis going on. David Horowitz has said that this is the greatest constitutional crisis since the Civil War, and he said this recently. Within the last few months. Yeah. And so we're at a dangerous state. And so this conversation needs to take place. And that's a big reason why I wrote the Socialism, Capitalism, and Thanksgiving chapter and that last chapter in the book.
Right. Because you need to, that's kind of the proof positive on many things. Just because you don't have physical proof of something that you believe in, doesn't always mean that it's not true. But at the same point in time, if you have physical proof that something doesn't work and you deny looking at it, so far as socialism, communism, Marxism, all the like, where every time that it fails, everybody's like, oh, they just didn't do it right. We'll get it right next time.
That's right.
That is a leap of faith too far. And yet they're more willing to jump that leap than a logical conclusion that we are intelligent beings, and the only way that we could have come to existence from the very beginning, using their own examples of evolution, the only way we could have existed is if somebody started us. Right.
And it's just corrupt at its core for one person to think that, oh, we can get it right with socialism. And you just don't. I don't have a right to try to be your king, and you don't have a right to try to be my king. So it's just corrupt at its foundation. You just don't have a right to live other people's lives for them. You just don't. And so in America, that's what the brilliance of America was, the sovereign rights of the individual.
Always. That's kind of always where it hits.
Yes.
And with that, we'll be right back. All right, commercial breaks. Yay!
Okay.
It's the last one.
So,
good.
So how you like that segment? Or was it?
No, that was great. That was great. Oh, by the way, we had a bell in there, but you were going to roll, so I didn't want to interrupt you with a bell, just because that would be really distracting.
Oh.
When you said men's bonds, pushing men to bond together unnaturally, you kind of get the point.
Yeah. Gosh, but I wasn't thinking that at all.
I know what I was, that's the point. That's where.
Yeah, that was a good bell ringer. That was a good one. You should have rung the bell.
That was Paul pointed that out. So good job, Paul.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that at all, and I wasn't trying to insult anybody out there. However you choose to live your life, you have a right to do so. So even if I have a different view, so I wasn't. But yeah, just putting a slothful guy together with an industrial guy and pooling their money. Well, who's going to win that battle? The guy. Nobody goes into socialism thinking they're going to come out with. Well, everybody that goes into socialism goes into it thinking they're going to come out with more than they put in. Right. The whole point of it.
Right, yeah. People like Hitler, he was an environmentalist. He was very animal friendly. He was a vegetarian.
all of those
things.
All the checklist things, right?
He had a lot of checklist things. He was he was nationalist, which now is seen as bad, but he was a nationalist socialist.
Right, and there was a party line. You had to speak. He had a political correct, terminology.
Exactly. He had a very political PC culture, and you couldn't speak about certain things, and the people that did, they were, killed.
Right. Well,
Killed.
that's the sad thing about the left, and I'm hoping with the book that a lot of people can, because I've got a lot of friends that, like I said, I've got a lot of friends that are on the left, and people are well-meaning. They're not all dark and evil and trying to, they're just not thinking through this, and I think if they would take some time and think through it, they would find they're not on the left really,
right. Right. Well,
I kind of hate the left and right. It's really a circle, it's not linear. And the best diagram that I've ever seen is it's a circle, and there are, but anyway, it's most of them just want to live their lives and be left alone, just as you and I do,
Yeah, definitely.
But they're afraid if they vote for the, one side, they're going to be told what to do, but they're doing the opposite. They're voting for the very people that will end up telling them what to do. We've seen this repeat in history over and over and over again, You're going to...
And welcome back. This is the Defenders of American Exceptionalism. It's the last segment. I had a lot of news to go through today, but I don't think I'm going to get to any of it. This has been a good interview. I like it. It's gone longer than I thought, and it's been good for everybody. A lot of education, a lot of process through. I want to talk a little bit about the minimum wage.
Okay.
Tell me about how you describe the minimum wage in your book.
It's the shortest chapter in the book, if I recall correctly. It's 7 pages.
Yeah.
And it's really discussion of what this government, the game that the government plays, and demagogues in government play with this minimum wage. It's really price fixing, and when you price fix into a market, you're adding artificial numbers into an otherwise organic market, and so you're throwing wrenches into the system, and all numbers in a market have a price discovery mechanisms that I think I used an example in the book about a number 2 pencil. If I couldn't get you to buy this for $50, if it were a number 2 pencil, then maybe I could get you to pay 10 cents. And so we would discover the price of that pencil. It's what the market will pay for a product, what the market won't pay for a product.
Yeah.
But when you interject rent control, for example, when you interject games like They're just manipulation games. Again, getting people to emote to conclusions, like feeling versus thinking. That first chapter, all these chapters seem to be diverse, but they really tie together. When the government comes in and wants to fix it at $15 or $20, or I mean, heck, why not just give everybody $1 million and just be done with it? Just give everybody in the country $1 million, and let's just say, all right, be responsible from here on out. I mean, where's the limit? Where's the limit? Just go ahead and give it, print the money and give it to. So when you start injecting artificial numbers into an organic market, because economics is really organic, it's a kind of alive in a way, and it's a stimulus and response thing. Then you start to cripple the system. You start to hinder the system. Yeah. And if you notice, the government never says. The government could simply say, you know what, we just want tax. We won't take income tax from minimum wage earners. Why do they never do that? They always throw it. They're always asking the business owner, always making him look, because they're socialists, and that's how they think, and they always want to push it on the back of the market. Right. So anyway, those are some of my initial thoughts to your. No,
that definitely makes sense, and it actually ties into one of your other chapters, which the hidden branches of the government, how bureaucracy really grinds and puts all that red tape and makes things so much more expensive.
Yes.
It's like, why would we create a system that literally multiplies itself into a point to where it has tendrils in every part of our society,
right?
To where no matter what you do, you have to deal with government to go through it. Why would we ever do that to ourselves? And like you said, it goes from the push in the early 1900s, back into the progressive era, where we decided that, or where the people that were running the country back then decided that it was going to be more of an administration and less of a service.
Right. Well, let's just say that I hated capitalism, and we're planning the scheme with Antonio Gramsci. Of course, he's dead, thankfully, but I wanted to take over a capitalist country, and I had the power to regulate. Well, I'll just regulate, and I would just choke it down to the point where people begin to complain about the system and go, capitalism doesn't work, it sucks. I mean, I can't. My doctor won't do what I want him to do, and I'll just regulate a little more, and then I'll regulate a little more, and then finally they just be screaming, government, please come in and do something, help us out. Okay, you know what? Socialism. We'll just make it fair. We'll give everybody. So this is being done on purpose. I mean, you just regulate it down to the point that people scream and again, not thinking and not looking at what's really going on. It's that hidden hand of government that's I called in yesterday, Doc and his and everyone had a great show. And
the 12 hours.
Yeah, the 12-hour marathon. It was an absolutely beautiful, awesome thing to do. What a kind gesture to do for people. And people were calling in from all over the country, just excited about their product. And, one guy with a cooler, and there were guys with guns, and people were making hot sauce, and I mean, this is just all kinds of products. And then you've got the government just wrenching them down with regulation. And that wasn't the topic. That was my topic, but otherwise it was a lively, upbeat debate, except for my call. Right. But people need to realize this is what's happening behind the scenes, and so you choke it down to the point that people begin to scream and complain, like they blame their doctor. They don't choke it down. Yeah, they don't. Well, I guess you're not supposed to repeat. I think I made a faux pas. I'm sorry. Okay, take the bell back. Okay. We have this. You have to unring the bell. All right. So, but people blame their doctors. They're mad at the insurance company, and then you end up with crony capitalism, because in order to survive, you end up with crony capitalists end up maybe paying regulators off, and so so you end up with this mess, and so but this has been done, and this has been done to America and to our country over the past 100 years, and I make the case in the book, and people read it in that chapter again that I can't remember the name of, but
that's a socialism, capitalism, and Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
how's that one?
But yeah, so that's what. And John Locke spoke of this in the 1600s. And let me just read something, since you brought this up. This is on page 109 in the book. It says this is John Locke. two treaties of government.
Yes.
Chapter 11, Section 141, if anybody's interested. So the legislative cannot transfer the power of making laws to any other hands, for it being but a delegated power from the people. They who have it cannot pass it over to others. So this thing that they've done.
Whoa! Hold on! Stop right there. But the executive has a phone and a pen.
Well, that's right. So I guess with a phone and a pen, you could do anything you want, right?
Right. I was told flat out for 6 of the years he has a phone and a pen, and whatever happens, he's going to make it happen.
Right. And I think I saw a picture of that same executive lip kissing the guy from Venezuela. I don't know if this was. Did you see that picture floating around the internet?
Yes. Yes.
Was that? Did I get? Well, I'm victim to some fake news.
I think it was cheek.
It didn't. It looked cheeky, all right, but
I believe it was a very good Photoshop. That's what that was.
But was it a Photoshop? So you saw
a very good Photoshop. Yes.
But anyway, so the Congress doesn't have a right to pass this off to unelected bureaucrats, and they've done this for years. All these little alphabet soup organizations that we have in
like the EPA.
Countries. EPA, yeah, the country's overrun with them. So we're so far off the Constitution, and if Congress had to do that, they would say, well, we don't have time to. That's the whole point, so that they can't act. Our government was designed to move very, very slowly on purpose, so that the government wouldn't be able to overrun the people. So, but what we were talking about, the socialism and capitalism thing, and then what regulation does is regulation is the tool that progressives use to transfer the power from the individual and the business owner to the government. So regulation transfers power from our individual lives to the government. So over the last 100 years, there's been a massive transfer of individual sovereignty to the government, and we've lost lots of freedom. I just had to write about it. I just felt so strongly about these things. I just wanted to try to speak to this in a positive way, but anyway, and so I think that's what's happening. And I don't know what we do about Congress and all these little bureaucracies, how we, it'll take a while to get the proper pushback on that. But
the funny thing is, most of those little bureaucracies are controlled by the executive branch. They could easily just be wiped out within a day. The president could sign a bill.
That is true.
He could sign an executive order, one of those things that nobody wants him to sign, but and specifically saying, I'm going to take away the powers that have been delegated to the executive branch by destroying all of these administrations that don't mean anything, especially the ones that are redundant and cost us so much more money.
Absolutely.
So he has that power.
Right. Well, because they were created largely by executive order as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
So they can be eliminated by the same method.
They were never voted in. They aren't laws. These places were just created. Oh, I'm just going to make a wing over here, and this guy's going to be that. I mean, come on. Can we just have a Grover Cleveland once in a generation?
One more, yeah.
Once in a generation, and cut us by half, and then the next year cut us by half again, and then the next year cut us by half again. It would be amazing. But that music sound says that the show is over.
We have another hour, right?
No, sadly not. I wish I did. I want another hour. You want to go another hour? We can go another hour. We can do this. All right, let's get it done. No, Mac Taylor, tell everybody where they can find you. MacTaylor.org is my website. On Facebook, it's Mac Taylor Author, MacTaylor, and the book is available on Amazon.com. It's available at all major booksellers, but Amazon.com is the best place to get it. They'll get it to you in 2 days with Prime. There you go. This has been the DOA show, Defenders of American Exceptionalism. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.